Hello, friends, and welcome back to the Let's Get Wicked podcast, where we talk about nothing but the game Villainous by Ravensburger. Right now, it has Disney. At some point, it will have Marvel in it. I am your host, Joker Jonesy here, and I am here with my lovely co-host, Headmaster Ditto. Hello, friend. How are you doing on this fine day?
I'm fine. I'm okay. Nothing wrong here.
Nothing wrong, and nothing exploding yet.
Nah, not yet, but give it a minute.
Yeah, okay. How
You'll
many
be
cups of
surprised.
coffee have you had?
Only one, which for me is extraordinarily few. So
Really? So, what's your
it'll
average
be
of
all
cups
right.
of coffee? What's your average?
Usually 3 to 4.
Oh my. Do you like drink that
Okay.
throughout the
Well,
spread of a day though, or do you drink it all in the
yeah.
morning? Okay.
Well, it depends.
Okay.
Uh,
That's a lot of coffee. Oh
it,
my.
it depends on the day.
Oh, I gotcha. I can imagine. Sometimes in the morning you're just like, you know what? 3 cups of coffee in an hour is not that bad. I need
Well,
it.
and I say that, but I also drink a lot more than like an actual measurement of a cup at a time.
Oh, really?
So
What is it?
that might be skewed a little bit.
Have you seen that was it that GIF or that clip from the Looney Tunes show where Bugs is like, I got a cup of coffee a day, and he's like pouring like
Yeah,
into a
exactly.
giant cup.
Yeah, that's actually almost me.
Oh God, what a way to start the show
I'm
talking
pretty
about coffee.
sure my coffee mug is actually 2 cups.
Really?
So
Oh my.
yeah.
I have my tea. I have my cups I drink out of tea. I've been drinking a lot of tea recently for those listening. And I'm trying to picture like if I look at it, it's like a typical coffee cup size. So I'm thinking your normal coffee cups are at least 2 or 3 times the size of what I have in front of me right now.
Probably so.
Oh
I
wow.
think the average teacup's about 6 ounces. Uh,
I
Pretty
think
sure the coffee cup that I use on a regular basis is about 16.
Oh
So
jeez. Oh my God, that is a lot of coffee. And you drink a full one of those?
pretty much, yeah.
Oh man. Oh my. Oh my.
You
Man.
can imagine
Oh God, man.
how
If I
that
was drinking that much caffeine, I'd be bouncing off the walls. I'd be
that should go ahead and say something then about how I am normally.
Oh man.
With that much caffeine in me. Um,
Well, luckily you've
there
had
you go.
you've at least had one cup of coffee to at least start the show off, right?
Yeah, I
And
have.
you've had enough. I've had my daily dose of caffeine. I've had some milk. I'm good to go. I'm really good to go because we're actually talking about something fun for once on the show. We had some I don't want to call it dark discussions, but some more serious topics, especially in light of, the world, and we want to do something a little bit more fun for the show today. And our topic today is talking about who we think are the most thematic characters. So rather than talking about who we think is the most powerful, who's got the best cards, the evil queen is the evil queen, we want to just talk about who we think is the most thematic in regards to their film in this game. What I had asked Ditto to do before the show is we're gonna come in with three. One of them would be like our defining character we think is the most thematic in the game. That is the way that we've kind of approached this topic. And we're just going to kind of sit here, dissect the characters that we brought to the table, and go from there. So, without further ado, I do not actually want to start this one off. I want Ditto to start off with
You
one of
know.
his two. That's what I want to do.
Ah, see, now you're putting the spotlight on me.
I know, I love doing this. This is why I enjoy this.
Yeah. As far as the most thematic, that was a really hard one to pick because I want to preface this whole thing for the record by saying that they're all fairly thematic in general.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So it's kind of hard to really pin something like that down.
It is
But I
difficult.
feel like the most thematic for me is probably Dr. Facilier.
Yeah,
Um,
let's dive into that. Why do you think the doctor?
well, and I'm gonna preface this in case y'all don't know. I haven't seen Princess and the Frog all the way through. I've mostly just seen clips of it involving the Doctor itself.
This
Uh,
is true.
what I know about him is he's a voodoo guy. He's got like a very tricksy sort of personality too. Um,
Yes.
and if you look at the cards and what he's able to do, you really kind of have to put yourself in his shoes to win with him. Uh,
He's very fun. Definitely
to
for sure.
me, it's really fun. He's super chill to play. And you never really feel, I guess, as Facilier like you're being taken out of the game necessarily. Um, but as the card is so aptly named, you can start getting a little desperate if you go too long without any significant progress. Um, the fact that his win condition is effectively just, a tarot reading is pretty great. Um, and I really like the idea of all of his heroes are actually kind of pretty generic in terms of what they're able to do. But considering the fact that of the movie that I've seen, none of them particularly stand out to me, that kind of makes sense.
Wow, that's a statement right there. Um, well, I will preface this saying that I have seen the movie, so I do have reference to what you're talking about. Um, and you're absolutely right. The heroes are very generic. Honestly, the Doctor is what makes that movie for me. If it weren't for the Doctor, that movie would kind of just be a little bit of a throwaway. No offense to you, Princess and the Frog. But I I wouldn't. So here's the deal: the more that I've played this game, definitely the Doctor is one of the most thematic characters. Period. And I think what makes it super. You've already stated this: the fact that like his whole thing is like he does tarot readings, and his whole gimmick is you pull three cards out of a stack. If you read the card that allows you to quote unquote rule New Orleans, you win the game. But you also have to control the talisman in order for that to work, which is also thematic because the whole since I know you haven't seen it, the whole gimmick with the movie is the fact that there's this talisman that the way that the Doctor has to rule New Orleans is that he puts that talisman on Lawrence after he's captured some blood from the prince. So Lawrence can turn into the prince, marry the daughter, and then be able to control New Orleans that way.
That makes
Yeah,
sense.
so it all thematically makes sense, and the cool thing too is that towards the end of the film, a lot of the smaller critter characters, so like Ray and the snake, I forget the snake at the moment, Juju, there you go. Those characters are like getting the talisman and kind of taking it away from the Doctor and Lawrence. So it's pretty thematic from the hero standpoint of yeah, these heroes are pretty generic, but the small strength heroes really their whole gimmick is the fact that they can take the talisman away, which is very thematic. Although it's really weird to me that because the way that the talisman works, it's that only when a hero is played, and the two main characters that are the prince and which I forget his name, which tells you how generic these characters are. And Tiana, and I only remember that because her name is because Tiana has won me so many games when playing against Facilier. What is it? They're the characters that get turned into frogs, and they are both force strength heroes, which I find weird, but they still do some pretty good stuff. But yeah, I just a lot of and I've said this before on the show. Friends on the Other Side card, when you play it, it feels so great. If you've seen the song in motion, that art when it kicks off just is just right. And a lot of the other little gimmicks with the character as well, with like Lawrence moving to like where a hero's location is, how the Shadow Man like moves with the Doctor. Because in the movie he's always got this constant shadow figure of himself like looming around him, and the fact that the talisman and the shadow spirits kind of go against him because at the end that's how he meets his demise essentially. It's super cool and it's super thematic, and the fact that they also made him essentially be the first character that basically plays a game within a game is pretty neat.
Yep.
I I very much enjoy it. Now, I will preface this saying that the Doctor was on my list of 3, but he was not my most thematic character. Believe it or not. I wonder if you can guess who
Impressed me a whole lot.
what was it? I want you to guess. I want to see if you can guess and see if you can figure out who my most thematic character is.
Let's see, for you,
I will preface it by saying this: Scar is not in my list.
that is a little surprising.
Yeah, Scar's not in my list.
Um, you'd probably say Radigan as
Radigan
far as
is in
thematic.
my list, but he is not the most thematic.
Huh.
Yes. And it's funny too because I still consider one of Radigan to be one of my favorite characters to play. And now, so when I first had gotten the expansion, I had not seen the Great Mouse Detective. But after watching it and then playing the deck again with more understanding of where it comes from the movie, it is definitely one of the most thematic decks in the whole game. Like, no doubt.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah. Just like the whole, you know, moving the mouse queen, the way that you actually have to play out the mouse queen and the little gimmicks with that, with like Flowersham and the gears. When you want to get Felicia out, you can basically play her for free by eating an ally, essentially, which is pretty neat. The fact that he actually switches to win condition when the queen is discarded, I thought that was so clever. Now, just like completely understanding the whole gist of the film, um, it's it's pretty awesome, and I it's weird because before seeing the movie, I actually just really liked Radigan's gameplay as a whole and just how it operated. But now actually have seen the movie and all that stuff, it's a lot more like I get what they were going with this character. It's there was obviously some game design tweaks that they added to it, but overall it's very much like, oh wow, this was made because someone really liked the Great Mouse Detective and they just wanted to kind of see all the gimmicks kind of go through. It's pretty incredible.
Mhm.
Yeah. How much experience do you have with the Great Mouse Detective?
Um, I watched it a lot when I was like 5.
Oh my God, that's a movie to watch when you're 5 years old.
But other than that, I just kind of forgot it existed.
Why is that though?
I think it's a combination of finding other movies more interesting
Yeah.
and uh, almost entirely blaming it on Alice in Wonderland.
Oh yeah. Because
Um,
wasn't Alice in Wonderland another one that you watched a lot? If I'm
that
not,
one was probably the one I watched the most.
I gotcha. Um, that's an interesting story to tell. I wonder how many people like, actually, like with some of these more weird off characters that are coming into play have actually seen these movies. Because
It's
especially
fair to ask because you gotta wonder, like Princess and the Frog. I never saw it.
yeah,
Uh, Great Mouse Detective. You never saw it.
I never saw it. I'll really
Um,
admit with the base game, I had not seen Robin Hood.
Really,
No,
that's
yeah,
another
I
one I
not
watched a
not till
lot.
like not till I started
That's
playing the game. I
that's
didn't
another
see
one
it.
I had seen a lot.
Yeah, I have not seen that one.
Um,
I was gonna say because like
I
all the
think
core Disney movies I've seen, stuff like Aladdin, stuff like Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, all
right.
that stuff. I've seen that stuff. It's more of these. I would say a lot more of the older stuff as well as some of the more obscure stuff. Like
Yeah, because I mean, I'm guessing not everybody's necessarily seen Fox and the Hound
no,
or
right. I haven't personally seen it.
stuff in that vein, like Aristocats. Probably not everybody's seen.
Yeah, I've seen Aristocats though. That is one I have seen. Um, well, it's interesting though because obviously, like the whole gimmick of this game is the fact that, and they've said this before, that it oozes theme. That's like their whole gimmick. And especially with these characters that are much more one-offs, I wonder how much fanfare went into like developing these characters from a thematic standpoint. Because especially with the character
Right.
like if we're calling out Radigan here with like Felicia and how her gimmick works, that is a
Oh,
very like
absolutely.
yeah
The fact
like
that the prime target to discard with Felicia is the mouse that she ate in the movie,
yeah
like,
exactly.
it's perfect.
And no, yeah, it's too perfect to be honest. And sometimes I keep forgetting there's that scene in the movie where the Felicia almost eats Fidget.
Yep.
Yeah, and then it's like because how much Fidget costs, because
So,
he is one.
right on the line, yeah.
Yeah, he's like, oh well, if he only costs one, it's worth it. I'll eat the bat. It's fine. Um,
Because I mean, by that point, you've gotten the use out of him.
yeah,
So,
exactly. Because his whole gimmick is the fact that he gets the hero out, so you can make it cost less. And if he's still, and he already did something bad because he forced a hero out on your table, well, I'll just eat him. He has no more use for me. But No, that's Radigan's definitely up on my list for most thematic, especially now having like played it. And I definitely, and this is a whole other topic for another day, but Radigan's one of the most fun characters in the game for me too. I think just with the whole gimmick of his whole deck is surrounded by the two goals, and just setting that up and like how the theme kind of ties into all that, I think is super clever. I think it's great, especially with the dual
Well, it is.
tile. And it's weird too because when I first saw that tile, so the backside of the tile with the rat, that actual picture is never actually really shown in the movie. The way that the lighting is on that art is never really shown. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, kind of that pose. I'm pretty sure that pose is actually just like 1 frame long,
It might be because
or
it's
something
super.
like that.
Yeah,
I
it's
know it's
super weird to
transition.
me because it's like it pictures Radigan in this very like dark like werewolf type kind of like
Yeah,
pose where he's like very like monster like. And he doesn't necessarily get monster like in the movie, but he does get to that point where he's like, I'm just gonna murder Basil. I really just don't care at
yeah,
this point.
super.
Yeah. Um but yeah, Radigan's definitely up on my list as well. Now, before we still guess what my top one is, what's another one on your list?
Another one on mine.
Yes.
Um, this is gonna be an interesting poll.
Go for it.
I think Ursula is actually super thematic.
Really?
Even if
Okay.
that makes her not that good.
Yes.
Um,
Do discuss. I would like to know.
Mostly, and this is something that's been discussed in the server a lot anyway, but the just the whole structure of her game and the fact that you're constantly having to make decisions on whether you want to, you know, the actual octopus form and go to your lair, or if you want to switch to Vanessa and go up on the palace and cause some pranks there. Is really fun. I like that she's one of the only villains in most of the Disney lore, and especially in the game, that doesn't directly outright try to murder the heroes. Like she tries to legal
Yeah,
jar legal jargon her way out of things,
that's true.
which I think is absolutely hilarious. Um, and I just like the fact that she, even though I hate it as a mechanic, I like the fact that she has to go out and like search and dig to try to find a way to get the items that she thinks will help her rule the sea. Huh?
Interesting. That is a very interesting take on all this.
Just I don't like her mechanically as a character, but every design choice they've made makes sense.
Yeah. Ursula is the one character of this entire game because of all the, and I've said this before, of all the female villains that we have in this game, Ursula is my favorite villain in that realm. No pun
Oh, that's
intended.
fair.
Um,
Well, I mean,
and
it boils down to Ursula probably out of all the female Disney villains is the one with the most character.
oh yeah, for sure. Like Maleficent is probably like the most like dastardly evil character,
Well,
probably.
Maleficent's just stock evil.
Yeah, and
Uh,
Ursula's actually got a
Stepmother is stock
personality.
evil.
Yeah, um,
Tremaine is stock evil. Mim is different, but no one talks about her.
that is true.
The Queen of Hearts is different, and rightly so. But can you really call her a villain?
No, no. I mean, she's iconic. You know what I mean? Like when you
There's
talk,
no doubt about that.
yeah, like when you talk about Alice in Wonderland, like one of the things that people always bring up are like Queen of Hearts, the Cheshire Cat, and the Mad Hatter, stuff like that. And I wouldn't even consider. I
Yep.
mean, was it Cheshire Cat's more of a villain than probably Queen of Hearts, right?
Oh, without a doubt. The Cheshire Cat had a much more significant presence throughout the movie,
Exactly.
which
Um,
is kind of the sticking point towards being a really good villain, is you have to kind of follow that character too. That's
yeah.
the whole thing is it has to be their story as much as it is the hero.
I mean, we're following the Queen of Hearts story. You know, her whole thing is she just wants to play a game and murder people. You know.
Yeah, and she was up there as far as making the cut for me.
She's a pretty
I
thematic
just
character, you know, because her whole, I mean, literally, you are taking a shot by
Yeah,
playing croquet.
literally just playing croquet.
Yeah. I know you said this plenty of times when we've either played games or on the show, where literally her whole gimmick is the fact that you are playing a croquet game and you're setting up the game.
Pretty much.
Yeah, it's pretty dope. Um, now back to Ursula really fast. I Ursula's always been tough because even recently I've just been like, I'm on the fence because I really want to like that character. I want to make her good. I want to make her fun. And even like last night, you and I played a game when I was playing Ursula, and I was enjoying myself. And I agree, like the whole like the binding contract gimmick is really cool because just like in the movie, the whole thing is like, oh, you're binding someone to this contract, and if they don't follow through with it, well, guess what? You get turned
Right.
into sea dust. You know?
Yeah, and then that's like her entire shtick is like deliberately makes sure that the conditions are impossible.
Exactly.
She just catches you in this legal loop, which is hilarious.
Yeah. And I also agree too with the changing of the form, where the whole factor where she wants to go between those two forms to try to accomplish her goal. Um, it's just hard. I think it's hard for me when I play Ursula to get that theme with that portion because just the way that like when you
Yeah,
get
that's
into
because
the
the general play style doesn't support it. You
right
have to
that
like
yeah, that's the
pro
issue.
generally just stick to the layer, and if you get change form, throw it away or keep it for Grimsby.
I know. Like I literally remember when we were playing last night, I had two or three copies of change form that I'm pretty sure I chucked, and I
Yep.
didn't need it. I had like 50% of my goal already completed, and I'm like, I don't need this. I really don't. You know, there's no point. Why be thematic? Because I mean, that's one thing that I've noticed with all the characters that they have in mind is that there's always like one part of the movie or so that like the character does accomplish that does get like shown here. Where like, I mean, bring up Scar. Scar always murders Mufasa. You know, so in order for
Yeah.
him to accomplish his goal, he has to murder Mufasa. You know, even if we bring up Hades, like Hades' whole gimmick is the fact that he's trying to get the Titans to come out and march them to Mount Olympus, and he wants them to use them to take over Mount Olympus. He does achieve that, you know, in some shape or form. They all have got those like parts of the theme, even whether or not they completely fulfill that goal in the movie or not. Ursula does that whole thing of like, oh, I do need to what is it? I do need to change form so I can fool Ariel, but it's never directly involved with Ariel unless Ariel comes out into play, and then you're just trying to murder her for gameplay purposes, which we're not going to go into
Right.
on this show. We don't need to beat that dead horse.
Well,
Yeah, it is
save
kind of
that for another day.
it is yeah it is kind of ironic though because in the movie the was it Triton takes the contract for Ariel,
Yeah,
so
that is one thing that I really wish they'd have taken into consideration for this character. That one moment where, okay, you can transfer contracts between characters.
yeah, because the only one
They're
that does that
willing
is
to take the hit.
Sebastian.
Is Sebastian, and that's not really in your favor.
No, it's really
Uh,
not. Because I think that would have been an interesting mechanic where like with Ursula, because really the main target is Ariel, and then if you play Triton, the Triton's whole gimmick is, all right, you can take a contract to put it on him, and you still get all the other gimmicks with him, where it's like cost one more to move him or
right.
play contracts and all that stuff. I think that would
Just
be
a little something to get that flavor bit in where you have heroes who are willing to take the fall for other heroes would be cool.
yeah. I think creating Ariel to be more like Aladdin or something like that, I think also would help. You know what I mean? Because like
Yeah,
in theory, what is it in the movie? She doesn't. Does she actually take any of the items? I forget.
he does. Uh,
Okay. Because in theory, the crown and the trident are both on King Triton himself, and Ariel
yeah.
never actually directly takes
Ariel
them.
did get the trident, I believe, for a very small part of them.
Okay. I
I
might
don't
also.
remember exactly where it is, but
I'm also trying to make sure Kingdom Hearts lore doesn't get
yeah, oh, I
myself
know.
confused. You know what I mean?
I'm thinking about that too. Don't worry.
Yeah, because I was like, wait, if I remember correctly, she does that in Kingdom Hearts, but that story is not the same as the Little Mermaid. So those are two different stories that we're talking here.
Yeah,
Um, but
yeah, I'm pretty sure
uh, I
she
was
does get a hold of it for a bit.
okay. Okay. I'll take your word on that, man. Now, I told myself this week I'm gonna go watch a bunch of the old Disney movies to kind of get some preparations for some upcoming characters that we're probably gonna see at
Right.
some point, and I might put the Little Mermaid on my list of things to do. Um,
Just to go say you've seen it.
yeah, just to say I've seen it because I've seen it before, but it's been a long time since I've seen it, so I don't like directly remember like frame by frame. It's not like It's not like
Right.
with me, the only Disney movies that I can really say I kind of really know by heart are The Lion King and Hercules, Tarzan, and for those of you haters out there, Nightmare Before Christmas. Um, but yeah. So that's a good call on Ursula. I still do appreciate that. Now the time has come, and so have I. Um, I want you to try to guess one more time for me what you think my most thematic character is. Take a wild shot. Like I said, it's not Scar.
Forget it, Pete.
Pete? No, God, no, it's not Pete. Pete is not on that list. Um, you will
Hey,
probably
it's
be
about as
pleasantly
wild a guess as I can
surprised.
make.
You'll be pleasantly surprised by this one. It's Yzma.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah, that's fair.
I so I know we've talked on our what was it on our our 10th anniversary show or 10th episode
Yeah,
anniversary show, whatever the
that's
hell you
the
want to
one.
call it. Um,
The
we had a
live
little discussion about
spectacular.
Yzma, and I, as much as weird as she operates, it is so damn thematic.
It really is. Like
It's stupid how thematic that whole deck
it
is.
is. And it's really interesting how they went about that too, because for me at least, I don't know if it applies to everyone, but The Emperor's New Groove doesn't really feel like a Disney movie to me,
Oh no, it doesn't.
like at all. And so the fact that in the game, like she doesn't operate like any of the other characters, really kind of drives that point home a
It's
little bit, where
yeah.
she doesn't feel like she fits.
Yeah, it's fun. It's funny because like that when Emperor's New Groove came out, that was like during a time where like DreamWorks is also doing a bunch of the animated film, 2D
Right.
animated films too. So and it's like because I mean no offense to Emperor's New Groove, like you know the main hero character is a jerk. You know you already got what's his face that was in Monsters Inc. that came out around the same time, and
Right.
then Yzma is like maybe the only character besides well actually no not even Yzma. Kronk is the only character in that whole movie that's like the star. And guess
And
what?
it's no wonder why Kronk is the main ally here.
Yeah, exactly. That's why Kronk
Star
is
of the
literally the
ship.
main card of this whole deck. Like all the actions too, which I find funny for the most part, revolve around some artwork with Kronk, whether it's like get the job done or right hand man or
Yeah, it's like it's interesting to think that in such a weird movie, like the comic relief is the most important character.
it is, and the fact that that character can also go against you. That is also a mechanic that
Yeah.
people forget.
No,
Um,
yeah, if you're not careful.
yeah,
Uh,
I don't think I've ever
his
actually had that happen to me while playing this
in
game
armor.
though.
Oh, I have. It's miserable.
Oh, it's bad because I mean the only way you can get him back really is
His right hand man.
yeah, unless you want to. Because are the palace guards 3 strength or yeah they're 3 strength and they're
They're
three
three, but you need two of them.
yeah which
Or
and there's only
heaven
three of them in
forbid
a deck.
he has the dagger,
Yeah, that's also true.
because that changes everything.
Uh,
Because
uh,
if you notice, he doesn't lose his item when he switches sides.
no, he does
But
not.
if he's got the dagger and he's trades, you're just out of luck.
Yeah. Oh, fun times. Then yeah, I was gonna say at that point either
Then
right
how
hand
are you
man
going to
or
get
all
it
three
back?
palace guards.
Because right hand man discards the item.
Right. Oh God.
So
Oh God.
you put yourself in a world of hurt if it gets that far.
It's so weird. That. But no, I think one of the things that makes Yzma's deck so thematic is I don't know how recently you've seen Emperor's New Groove, but I watch it like maybe once every few years, just because it's an easy film to turn on and just like zone off to. Where
Right.
after the part where they're like going to the palace and like Yzma and Kronk are following them when they're like on that path and they're showing that like that visual aid thing or whatnot,
Yep, that's a good one.
that whole portion where they're like following them and stuff, literally what this movie feels like, or this
Oh
when
yeah,
playing her feels
absolutely.
like.
That's exactly what it is.
Yeah, and even as like I think probably from the opponent standpoint, the opponent probably has more fun trying to fate Yzma than playing their own character. If we're just being very frank,
To an extent, yeah.
I mean, because you have a
It's
lot.
like you never know how to trip her up.
Yeah,
Like you have so many ways to just mildly inconvenience her.
yeah, and like you always kind of know what's available. You know,
Yeah, and you always like you always know more than Yzma does.
right? And Yzma doesn't really have that many ways to mitigate that. Like the only way she really does is with smash it with a hammer. That's the only way she
Which
can, unless she
is a
wants to be.
pretty significant gamble.
Yeah, unless she's like, oh, I just played Pacha with after them, and I want to shuffle two fate decks together. You know, whenever that actually wants to be used like that. I don't know when, but I mean, even the heroes themselves, they're all like the kids are irritating, and they're also literally the scene where Yzma visits the house. The kids are the nuisance
Pretty
characters.
much, yeah. I guess
Pacha's
that
the
to a T.
yeah, Pacha's trying to filter stuff out. Um, Chica's making you lose power. The peasants are like trying to get more people to come in. It's all super freaking thematic, and I love it. It just oozes theme so much. I dig playing against and with Yzma a lot just because of that factor. I don't think she's very strong overall in the game, but man, if you want a character that just oozes personality all the way
Oh yeah.
through, she is fantastic. I dig her. Now, with that being said, though, do you have one? You have one more? So like I
I
said,
do. And it's a fun pick.
what's the fun pick?
So, Great Mouse Detective, I watched a lot
Right.
as a kid.
Okay.
Alice in Wonderland, I watched a lot as a kid.
Yes.
The other really big movie that I watched that was just Disney was Peter Pan.
Really? So you're saying Hook?
I love how Hook is designed in this game.
I thought was it. So I could be wrong too, but were you talking like Hook from a power perspective that you didn't like him that much, or like in terms of how well he plays, or do you actually enjoy playing him? I forget.
Here's the thing. I do enjoy playing him, but the mechanics that he goes about using are not my favorite.
I gotcha. Okay.
I'm not a big fan of the item digging, sort of not really much to do until you get the map kind of gameplay. Same
Yeah,
reason I hate Ursula. Same reason I don't care for Jafar much.
I gotcha.
But everything about the Hooks deck and the way they have it designed, it's like, despite that, is great.
Oh no, it's very well done. I'm not a huge Peter
Uh,
Pan fan, and I actually think it's very well designed too. Uh,
Even just ignoring the super obvious, hey, 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 TikTok makes you lose your hand.
yeah, no, I thought that was great.
Um, just the idea that over the course of the game, you're going to end up having this huge crew of pirates just sitting at the ship, waiting for you to go find Peter. Uh,
This is so
is
great.
great. It's beautiful.
I know it's fantastic. And
The
just
fact that
like,
you have to lure Peter across with the bomb,
oh, that's
like
perfect too. I thought that was great.
it's such a good design.
Yeah, I
Uh,
I definitely agree with that. Hook is definitely a very well designed character in terms of thematic
the,
standpoint.
the taunts make sense.
Yeah,
Uh,
the characters, the heroes in the deck too make a lot of sense too, because like with
all the
Tinkerbell
heroes
discarding the
do the right
ally,
things.
putting the wishes on one of the kids makes him stronger because if he gets an item, he gets another
Yeah, they
strength or
get to
something
fly.
like
They
that.
can fly.
Yeah, exactly. I
That's the
just
entire thing. They get harder to kill.
I know it's very well done. And then like the whole thing with the Lost Boys, where like since there's many of them, rather than picking out individual
Right.
ones, they're like,
You
hey,
have
let's
to
choose
use.
a bunch of them, and you have to use more than one ally to murder them. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
I think that's super clever.
Good combo.
It's very well
I
done.
think everything they've done, just like he stands out a lot as just perfect. Like you could follow the movie to a T and still do perfectly fine.
Yeah, as I keep was it Peter Pan's not one I've seen a whole lot of. I remember watching it, when I was really getting to Villainous, I went through a lot of the movies and we're watching them. And I remember like
Right.
rewatching Peter Pan, I was like, wow, this follows pretty accurately what they put
It
together.
does. Like it's perfect.
Yeah, it's pretty spot on for what they did. Um, and it's funny. It's funny too because like he's one of the characters I always bring out when I'm first teaching this game to people for the first time
Right.
because
Because he's super straightforward.
yeah,
There's not really a way to mess him up.
no, there's really not. Like the only thing that can get in the way is the map, but One of the reasons why I like Hook compared to characters like Jafar and Ursula is that with those characters, you get stuck with cards that you can't really use effectively, while with Hook,
Right.
guess what? He's got tons of
You've
pirates.
always got something. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's like it's always going to be someone to add to your crew. It's always going to be a Hook's case or something that you can use. It's always going to be worthy opponent to go hunt him down. It's always like you're never going to feel like you can't do anything, probably,
right.
unless you just get really unlucky with how you're pulling stuff.
Yeah,
Hint, hint, cough, cough.
that's true. And he doesn't have an issue really gaining power either, so honestly, or at least his cards, in terms of the way his cards cost, he doesn't really have that big of an issue. Um, but yeah, no, I that's a really good call. I actually wouldn't have thought Hook that way. Because I had some honorable mentions in
Oh, I
terms
do
of
too. I have
yeah,
one or two.
yeah.
Uh,
What is it? One of my big honorable mentions is actually funny because it's just the recent expansion. I think Cruella's up there.
yeah,
Yeah,
she's good.
yeah. I think
She's
I
a bit of an interesting one because in the like as far as the movie's concerned, she starts with most of the puppies already at Hell Hall. Like she's
right,
only buying the last 15 in the movie.
correct. That is
So you're
true.
actually seeing more through the game of the process than you get to see in the movie, and that's an interesting one.
I wonder if the way that they approached that was because technically all the puppies escape. So maybe it's the whole concept of since all the puppies are all over these locations. I think that's the gimmick they went for, possibly. Um,
Possibly.
yeah, and it's also clever too because like guess where she starts the movie off at the Ratcliffe house, and
Right.
that's where does Remover start at the Ratcliffe house. You know?
Yeah, that's one thing that stuck out to me too, because for the most part, if you notice it, the first location in the realm typically is the villain's base of operations, I
Yeah,
guess you could say.
yeah,
So to have hers in Hell Hall being all the way across the board uh, is a neat little game,
yeah. I
something a
mean,
little different.
she doesn't really visit Hell Hall though, correct? If I'm not mistaken, right? Because don't
She
or she does she briefly.
she for a couple minutes, yeah, it's not long.
Yeah, because I don't think she ever steps foot inside the house. I think she's like right
No,
outside the
she
house.
goes outside, yeah.
Yeah. Um, but no, one of the things I always tell people with this recent thing of like how cards feel to play them and stuff, the whole gimmick of capturing puppies just feels so good. And the fact that like that's her whole like gimmick in the movie too is that she wants to capture puppies. It just
Right.
makes so much sense. And then like every time, every time someone plays the card you idiots, you just got to say it like she does. You have to.
You really do.
You really do. That card just screams. You just want to just yell at your allies and call them idiots because they really are. Because if you use them to vanquish, they go away, and you don't know when you're gonna get them back. And it's rough. Um, no, she's one of my major honorable mentions. I think overall. I think the reason why I didn't put her necessarily higher is just because like it goes into the whole feel good factor I talk about with like when you play cards. Like she has some of them, but compared to like someone like when you play cards with Doctor, like they just feel good to play. With Radigan, you act like I always tell people you feel like the greatest criminal mind when you do so, like the whole song.
Right.
And then like with Yzma, I honestly feel like I'm playing out the movie as I'm playing the character, so it just fits right. Um, I think with Corella, it's more the fact that I just really like capturing puppies, and since that's her whole gimmick, the whole deck is designed around that and like the themes around it. I think it's very well done. That's one of my honorable mentions. I assume you have some too.
Yeah.
What?
My main honorable mention is Jafar.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow,
Again, with the characters I don't really like, but
that's funny.
can't deny uh, how accurate they feel.
I mean, it's funny too because that was. I mean, I'm making this joke recently to all you fighting game fans out there. Jafar is the Shoto of this game. He's the
Yeah.
Ryu. He is the Ken of this game, and it's very obvious when you play him.
Yeah, it is.
Uh,
The main thing is uh, obviously finding the pendant, finding the lamp, abusing Gazim to go and pick stuff up for you, hypnotizing the heroes. to keep them under your control. And the three wishes gag,
Oh yeah, no,
like
it's
that's so
great.
good.
It's great.
I loved that. But I felt like that wasn't really enough to justify him over the other ones.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, all these characters are so thematic. It's just like we could just sit here and just like go into super detail about all these different characters because like I think one of the coolest things, and this goes, like I said, our podcast goes into Kingdom Hearts tangents now, where the
Yay.
whole fact of Iago's whole gimmick is that he's supposed to move the
He's
lamp.
carrying the lamp.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and just like I mean, like I know he does it in the movie too, but like in Kingdom Hearts, guess what?
Oh no, Kingdom Hearts.
Yeah, that's the
That's the
entire Jafar
entire
boss
thing.
fight at the end. Is literally you're fighting Iago carrying the lamp to defeat Jafar.
Yep.
Unless you want to
It's
be that
great.
person and cast Blizzard, which you could
That
do.
was me.
Oh my God,
That
bless your
was me.
soul. Thank God for strategy guides. Um,
Right.
but oh yeah, no, it's just like all those little tidbits and stuff. And speaking of Kingdom Hearts, I will say this up front: Pete is the Kingdom Hearts character of this game. He really is.
Yes, he is, and I love him.
It's I remember when we found out what the goal thing was, I was just like, all right, whoever designed this character obviously has played Kingdom Hearts at some point in their life. They understand.
And they are a fan.
Yes, they understand, and without directly using the Kingdom Hearts material, they knew what to do. Um,
They set up exactly that.
yeah, they disguised it as the Disney shorts when in reality Kingdom Hearts also did that. Um,
Yep, it did.
yeah, which is
100%.
yeah,
They were different shorts, granted, but
correct.
they
Yes.
did.
God, no, these there's lots of characters. And plus I could talk to you about Scar all day. I th-
Yeah,
I
well.
But well, I mean, there's when you play all these characters, I think one of the cool things is that if you've seen these movies, you kind of pick out those moments, and then like in terms of like how they design the different characters to accomplish their goals. I mean, I know I point out Scar earlier, but like the fact that in order for you to actually continue towards your goal, you have to murder Mufasa. That is the one character you absolutely have to defeat. And I mean, and usually your best setups are like near the for like at the gorge. There you go. I was trying to think of the word. For like Mufasa, stuff like that. It just and with how
Right.
the stampede works to do that, and there's all these little things that I just really dig about this game that when they get played or like when you see the text on them, it just makes a lot of sense and it's super thematic and I really appreciate the details. Um,
And it all makes the game easier to play too, because even if somebody's not really familiar with the concept or the mechanics of the game, you can show them, okay, kind of this is what each of the cards do, and then over time they'll just, oh, that's like the movie.
right.
Oh, that's how that works.
Exactly.
You kind of come to expect what the things are going to do just because you've seen the movie already.
Exactly. I pointed this out in the learning video, but one of the biggest things I think that's really good about how they designed this game was the fate decks and how like the heroes themselves, like the main protagonist of each of the films, is usually the best card to
Right.
play in the fate deck. Because like with bringing up Scar, like Simba's probably like right underneath Rafiki, probably the best card to play against Scar, especially early game. Even like Hades is also a good example where like Hercules is also really good to play. Queen of Hearts, Alice is definitely the worst card. Ariel's the worst card, and Ursula's. Aladdin's really bad, and Jafar. All these like main hero characters are like they're easy to identify that that's the card I probably should play over something else that I picked up. I think that's really clever in design, which is I think just makes it more thematic. Because also you want to see those heroes out on the board too. I mean, like let's just be honest, you always want to see the cool characters out on the board rather than all the dinky characters. Because I mean, when you play Hades, who wants to play Phil? Let's just be honest.
I mean, I'll play Phil.
You want to play Phil? Do you want to get was it? Did you get what +2 strength or something like that? Is that what it is?
Yeah, if Hercules exists.
Yeah, if Hercules exists, that's right. No. Um, I'm trying to think. What I'm trying to think of. I'm trying to think of the absolute most thematic moment of all the characters in this game. Like at the top of my head, like of all the characters in the game that exist so far, what is like the most thematic thing in the game? Period. That's a tough question.
It
And
really is.
I just thought of that at this very second, which is probably not a good idea. Um, but oh god, there's so many. I could just like it was the Evil Queen brewing the ingredients.
Yep,
That's
that's
up
a good
there.
one.
That's up there. Um, well, I just go on about this for days. I think one of the things that I don't think this game gets enough credit for is the theme factor because, a lot of tabletop games usually rely heavily on the mechanics. You know what I mean? Like they rely
Right.
on good, solid mechanics to make the game feel good. And this game does a really damn good job of combining really good mechanics with theme. Because,
Well, they
like,
adapt the mechanics to suit whatever theme they're trying to make happen,
right.
which is really cool.
Yeah. Because it's harder to do games that don't necessarily have a license tied to it because like a lot of the other tabletop games I play are stuff like Root, King of Tokyo, um, things like that. Because like for example, with King of Tokyo, I mean the whole game is about monsters invading Japan, but what is the game actually? It's just Yahtzee. That's all the game is.
Right.
You're not really taking over Tokyo, and even with Root, the whole thing with Root is that you know it's the factions themselves have really good solid mechanics with it, but the theme only comes really apparent through the artwork of the game, which I still think is one of the best artwork in general of any tabletop game out there. With Root, but the theme itself, like let's say if you're playing as the bird faction, you don't necessarily feel like you're playing as birds. Or the same thing if you play with like the cat faction, you don't feel like you're playing as cats, you know. But with this game right here, like when you play as these different villains or you're playing against the villains, whether you're fighting them or you're playing as the villain themselves, the theme really just oozes with the gameplay in ways that I just not have really felt with a game in a very long time. And even like as someone when I was recently super into Star Wars Destiny, there are some little underlying mechanical things that they do to make characters seem a little bit more thematic, but then there's that weird line where, especially with the later half of Destiny before they stopped making it, where they made characters too thematic, where it kind of interfered with the gameplay, where it was requiring you to basically like this character and this character with this subtype must exist all at the same time for this magical little combo to work. You know, and I don't. And this game does a really good job of identifying that like those thematic moments but without saying like you absolutely need to do like murder this or not murder but like do this particular thing with this particular character to accomplish this particular task with your like at least the effect cards themselves because I'm thinking of a character like Felicia. Sure, in the movie you're eating Bartholomew, but in theory you can eat any ally. You don't have to do it specifically with Bartholomew, because they could have done that and that would have made it 500 times more complicated. But thank God they didn't do that because that would have been ridiculous. Whew. That was a lot of words I just said right there. Now I'm tired. I know. And it's what happens when you talk all day as your job. You get used to talking like for long strings of time. And all of a sudden you're just like, shit, I need to breathe. There's this thing called air and water that I need to drink. God. But
Eventually.
what else you got to
Fine.
say about thematics, Ditto? I want to hear your thoughts. I can't sit here and
Um,
talk all day.
right. Um, I think we pretty much covered everything.
Yeah, it covered
Uh,
everything.
for the most part, yeah.
What so what we'll end the show on this particular little topic and then we'll kind of wrap things up. So, in regards to theme in the let's say like with Marvel and any upcoming Disney stuff, what would you really want to see in terms of the theme being blasted with those particular extra like the new Disney characters that we are definitely know are coming at this point, as well as some of the Marvel stuff? Because I think one of the things that I've struggled with when playing Marvel tabletop games is theme. I think that has been a very difficult thing to grasp, just because superheroes have such long history of different things happening that in order to really tackle theme correctly, you have to be very specific. And just like what I was talking about, you don't want to make it too specific, or else it's not going to be fun. It's going to be way too restrictive, and people won't have fun. What would you like?
Well,
What would you like to
here's
see
my
from
take on
Marvel?
it.
Let's start there.
The thing about superhero stuff in general is that it's a lot easier since superhero stuff is usually in the comic book format for them to reboot things or like start a spin-off series or like a different universe, so to speak, where they can kind of recreate the entire story.
Okay.
Which is something that obviously with Disney movies you can't really do, at least not without having a horde of angry Disney moms clawing down your
Oh yeah, I
uh,
want those, man. I want all
right?
those. I want those Disney moms. Um,
Um, but just it's tough to work with superheroes because they could be anything.
yeah,
So it's hard to really like nail down a specific theme. Because if you're taking Spider-Man, are you going to take, which version of Spider-Man are you going to take? You're going to do the MCU uh, Peter Parker Iron Spider thing? You're going to go down the route with Venom? You're going to go down the route uh, with Spider-Gwen? Like any one of those different sort of spin-off different universe deals really makes it hard to pin down exactly what type of character they're going for.
I mean, especially when you play them in the game too, because like I was thinking about this the other day, where like, how do you make like I mean I'm even talking specifically like the Fate deck itself, because we know it's gonna be relatively universal,
Yeah.
with at least the Marvel side. How do you make sure that those characters still feel like those characters when they only are essentially one card?
Well, that's really the issue is in formats like this or in fighting games especially, you run into the problem where the best you can do is just kind of distill out a caricature of these characters and roll with that.
Yeah, that's true.
It's never going to fully represent the character as the character, but if nothing else, it'll at least represent enough to get the idea across, I hope.
Yeah. I mean, there's like
Um,
very simple things you could do because, like, I mean, for example, the Hulk. Like, Hulk can be a high strength hero, and he's probably going to destroy something when he gets played. You know,
right.
that's
True.
that's something very simple.
I would expect Thor to be involved and for Thor's gimmick to actually be switching realms.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Like you have a mechanic in place where you can either pay some power or pull a different fate card on somebody else that lets you move Thor over.
Oh, that's actually a really cool gimmick.
In kind of a Bifrost
I like that. That is a really cool idea.
idea.
I didn't even think about that. Wow, you should be a designer.
Could be neat.
You should be a designer.
I don't know about that.
No, because
Um,
I mean, it's like even like with Captain America, like what specifically like with the how the game works, how would you do that? Because his whole gimmick is he's the leader of the
probably,
Avengers and he's got a shield.
yeah, I would make him the you have to defeat him before you defeat anyone.
I guess that makes sense.
Like if you want to get to my team, you have to get through me first,
I guess that makes sense.
kind of character.
Yeah. And then like I mean, there's some obvious ones because like Ant Man and Wasp, they would both be like, all right, one strength or two strength heroes, but you get to play another fake card or yeah, fake card on
Right.
top of that. Um, Stuff like that. I'm just like as a huge Spider-Man fan, like I was just trying to think of like how do you portray Spider-Man correctly as a hero, and with some of the villains too, because like what you were saying is that since there's so many different storylines, like there's some obvious ones with like Thanos. We all know that probably his goal is to get the 7 Infinity Stones or the 6 Infinity Stones. My bad. I know my Marvel lore. That's an easy gimmick to kind of guess, but like, what exactly do you do with characters like Ultron and Hela to be exact? Because Ultron, he is essentially I want everything to be robotic and all living organism life needs to go away. How do you like,
All right.
like how do you accomplish that correctly? And then like even with Hela specifically, it's just like, what do you do with that one?
Well, Hela's a conqueror, so it's going to be some spin on either have more allies at every location than heroes, or have a certain amount of. We know she's got some sort of soul marks
Yeah, that's
that's
true.
going on. It could be have X amount of soul marks in play, something like that. Just we don't have enough
Yeah,
information yet
I
to
mean,
really
granted, we don't
pin
have
her
enough
down.
information, but I even think from a thematic standpoint, like, it's not like there's not like enough information to go off of when building thematics like that. I think it's more
Yeah.
of the fact that there's so much to work with. What is the best portrayal to make sure that like your quote unquote casual audience is going to understand the thematic side of
What's
that?
going on?
Because it's just like what
Yeah.
I was talking about earlier, where like when if you're introducing this to a new player that's not even necessarily like super into tabletop games, if they've at least seen the lore or the media of the character, they understand that, oh, if I play, Spider-Man's going to do Spider-Man things. You know what I mean? Like they understand what that's going to do. That type of ordeal. It'll be interesting to see how they portray that. But let me tell you, the more that I see of that artwork, oh my god, the theme is going to be oozing in that game.
Style on the artwork is perfect.
Oh god.
If all of the cards continue to be that style, I think they've got a beautiful thing.
Oh no, that game is going to be one of the prettiest damn games on the planet, let me tell you. That Ultron art is sick. The more that I look at it, I'm just like, oh yes. The thick comic book lines on Ultron's lining, oh, it's so good. It is so good.
I can't wait to see the rest of Thanos' deck because I have to.
Oh, well, I'll tell you one thing though. All 6 Infinity Stones are going to be in there, and all the members of the Black Order are going to be in that deck.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I can already tell you what's that, right? What, maybe 11, 10 cards or something like that?
Pretty much, yeah. Unless they distill the Black Order down to.
Yeah. Let's see. I don't know the members at the top of my head.
Them up.
But
I don't remember them all either. It's been too long.
Yeah, it's been a while, but yeah, no. That's I just there you go, everybody. Without even official confirmation, I just guessed about a third of Thanos' deck.
Right.
But yeah. Now to officially end the show with the last portion of this. So we talked Marvel. We talked Marvel, baby. In terms of themes for some possible future characters, without diving too deep in speculation territory, I think we can officially confirm, especially after something I did on the Discord today. What is it? We know we're probably going to get Gaston, and we probably know we're going to get Lady Tremaine. I'm going to go ahead and put money down on those two.
A given. Tremaine makes too much sense.
Yeah. In terms of thematics with those characters, what do you think are probably the most thematic things they can do? We're not going to say like how the character's going to operate necessarily, or like what they're going to be played like, or what their objective is. I don't want to go that speculation. We're going to save that for a future episode. Don't worry, everybody, it's coming. Don't worry. But what would you say like the most thematic things you'd be looking for in characters like those?
All right, for Gaston, his personality is super loud, super arrogant, super open about things. So I'd expect him to be a little kind of Ursula style almost, where a big part of the play style is actual table intrigue and making yourself a bigger target. And actually gaining some sort of benefit off of bringing attention to yourself.
Interesting. So what
could be a really fun gimmick.
So what, the character manipulates like conditions or something like that?
Possibly. Like it could be a fun thing to run around because if you think about it, Gaston is a character who thinks he's always on a step ahead of everybody else when realistically he's more 2 or 3 behind.
That's true.
So giving him the option to sort of manipulate those condition cards in a way that says, "Oh, I know what I'm doing. I can do this," and just kind of bringing a bunch of attention to himself, only for that to pay off, maybe 2 or 3 turns down the road.
I gotcha.
Could be kind of a fun little
gotcha.
Atmosphere to work with him in.
So, make sure I'm understanding this. So the whole gimmick with the Gaston is that he's basically trying to get attention onto himself, regardless of what his goal is. That's
right.
like his
the
goal.
Actual objective would, if you ask me personally, would be to marry Belle.
Oh. Well, we can have a conversation about that at a later day because I disagree.
Well, the only reason he cares about the Beast at all is because Belle fell in love with him instead of Gaston.
No, that's true. I'll give you that.
Belle is the prize, not the Beast.
That's true. That's a very true statement.
But all at the same time, you've got cards that short-sightedness, I guess, is the thing I'm going for. Like the cards are really seemingly beneficial. Like he may have a card that lets him just gain a whole bunch of power all at once and then not have anything to spend it on. Or have a bunch of really cheap, easy to play allies that don't really do anything.
I gotcha. So he's like a one trick pony character where he's
A
got
one-trick
like
pony that makes himself look really big and really imposing, but there's no substance there.
I gotcha. Interesting. That's an interesting way to tackle the
Kind of a
character.
mindset.
I gotcha. Um, I agree with that with Gaston, where I think his big gimmick will be his personality with his ego. However, they portray that, I don't know. I do like what you said though, with the fact that like he he's he's an egomaniac, so he wants people to look at him. So manipulating conditions would be a cool way of doing it. Doing the really big plays where it like looks really menacing, but then all of a sudden it's like, oh, I have 7 power and it doesn't really do anything. I think that would be kind of cool to go about doing that. Um, Lady Tremaine, I think, is one that I'm not
Lady
really
Tremaine
sure.
is going to be very different from a lot of these other characters, except for maybe Gotham. And
Yeah,
this is something that goes back to like mid-October, when we
yeah,
first started talking about Gotham being an option.
yeah,
And that's the idea of Lady Tremaine is a diplomat.
yeah.
She's not outright like violent at all.
Right.
She's very calm, very, I don't want to say cold-hearted, but yeah.
Yeah.
Um, and she has a clear goal in the movie that is very, diplomatically charged. So to have a character in this game that, say, doesn't necessarily vanquish her heroes, but instead just discards them via other means.
So just like what like not necessarily the same way Evil Queen, but like you have
Not like the
cards.
same way with the poison, but just like having a card that lets you discard a hero because, let's say it's Cinderella, and you have some sort of like menial labor card
I gotcha.
that lets you discard Cinderella. Or if you have Lucifer as your main ally going around picking the mice off in the background, you don't necessarily need a vanquish to do that.
Right.
And I think the idea of being the table diplomat and just kind of trying to control board states that way
I think it'd be
would be neat.
yeah, I think it'd be fun to make.
It would be cool to
Yeah.
have a situation where you've kind of got the Gothel and Rapunzel sort of always present tile for the prince,
Yeah.
and the entire gimmick being chasing him down with one of the daughters and marrying her
Yeah. In some shape
to
or
win the
form of
game.
making it so
Something like
like
that.
just to I wonder if you do something too with like the slipper where like you get the prince out by like getting Cinderella or with the and then like you get to play the slipper or whatever the hell it was, and then that's like something that instigates something. I think that'd be a cool way to
Right.
go about doing that.
Just having something where you're controlling the actions of the board, but you not really feel like you're doing it directly, I guess.
It'd be fun to make a
Uh,
true control character in this game. I don't think you
it
really
would.
have one, maybe besides Prince John, where
He's not even much of a control character. He's just a turtle.
yeah, he's pure defense. Um, I think it'd be fun to really make a control character in this game where you honestly feel like you always have like like not complete control, but your whole gimmick is you're controlling board state at all times.
Yeah.
Um,
The idea that you know what's going on and that you have the contacts or that you have the know-how to skew things more in your favor,
yeah,
as opposed to just outright, strong arming it.
yeah. Because I think it's one thing that we're definitely missing. I mean, gameplay thematically standpoint is that obviously this game is designed by a lot of trading card game players. And it's very obvious with especially with characters like Pete, who was designed by a Magic the Gathering designer, where a lot of these like aggressive, discard mill deck type of things take place, and making a character that actually is that, like you said, diplomatic character, and their whole gimmick is control. I think would be a really solid way to go
Oh,
about
and I just
doing.
thought of this too. This is an interesting thing to think about.
Do it.
I'll give y'all this to think about.
Do it.
Lady Tremaine would make herself out to be one of the most serious villains that could have been included. Because everyone else, like, it fits the more 2D animation, haha cartoon evil cloak kind of villain.
Yeah, those guys.
And then you've got Lady Tremaine,
Right.
who's surprisingly down to earth and realistic in her portrayal of exactly how evil she really is.
Oh yeah, totally.
And that would reflect in her playstyle really well too, I think. Part of the reason, by the way, that I think Frollo would work so well.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I
Because he brings just a level of realism to the game that they haven't really tread on yet.
yeah, I think I mean, honestly, they were able to get around it a little bit with The Great Mouse Detective because The Great Mouse Detective is not necessarily a very bright film, put it that way.
It's not.
No, but I think because I remember someone mentioned this recently, and this is why with Gaston, I'm not 100% sold on the Belle thing, is just because the way that you would have to portray that is in a oddly not necessarily tasteful manner, and especially when you're trying to introduce this game. Because I mean, what's the age range on this game? I think it's like 10 up or 8 up or something like that.
Or it's something like that.
Yeah, it's something on the lower end of the age spectrum. I don't necessarily know if you want to introduce this game to children and be like, hey, this guy's whole gimmick is that he wants to basically kidnap a girl and marry her. Um,
And you could spin that argument around and say you don't want 8-year-olds being faced with, animal abuse
no, that I mean, yeah, that's true. You
or
could do that.
government
Yeah,
problems with
yeah,
Prince John
yeah. Let's
or the
implement
level
political
of
issues in
complete
this game.
mania that Captain Hook is or
Oh my god.
anything like that. I mean,
Yeah,
it goes both ways.
yeah, that's true. I think
And I mean, if it were really that bad and like that big of a deal, then they wouldn't have made the movie to begin with.
that's true.
Like they would have just not taken that chance.
No, you're absolutely right.
So
I do think part of Gaston's goal will be like some manipulation with Belle. I don't think it's going to be directly the end game goal though, because my quote unquote prediction with Gaston is that it will be to defeat the Beast, but it will be very much like a Peter Pan scenario where there's going to be you have to get Belle into some position to unlock the castle, and then Beast has to get played to the castle, or Beast gets played to the castle once Belle's under your control, and then you march to go defeat the Beast. I think that's the because I think that'd be
it's
a more
possible, but it's just
yeah.
from what I remember of the movie, Gaston and the Beast don't have that same dynamic. It's really Gaston. Like Gaston's entire objective in the movie is marrying Belle.
Oh yeah.
He doesn't care about the Beast. If it weren't for her going and finding that mirror and bringing it back, he'd have never even known the Beast was there.
I forget what was the reason that he went after the Beast anyways. Was it just to prove that
It was under the guise of uh him just kind of telling the townspeople that the Beast was a threat to society.
Okay.
Um, Disguising the fact that he was just jealous of, hey, Belle fell in love with that thing and not me, the perfect specimen of masculinity.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
what?
Oh yeah. Large as a barge. Ate 5,000 eggs.
No, that's the whole thing. Is he's just kind of masking it as a menace to society thing. It doesn't really even have anything to do with like it
Yeah.
could have been anyone or anything, and he would have done the same thing, bro.
Yeah. I'm curious. I'm curious because I do agree with that. I do agree with that, but I wonder even just from like because it's you're absolutely right. The whole thematic thing with Gaston is that he definitely wants to marry Belle. It's more of the like this is like the whole the me thinking as a casual player thing where like, oh, if I was thinking of Gaston, his whole gimmick would be to defeat the Beast because that's what his end game goal in the movie is that he's moving towards that goal.
Yeah,
Because
but that's only his direct goal for the last 15 minutes
yeah, and you're
is
right.
my thing.
I'm trying to think if there's any villains like that in this game really that don't have that like
Because
I
I
mean
mean,
the only one that has it is Radigan really, but his is designed that way in the game to make it so his first goal is to do this. If that gets foiled though, it
exactly,
flips. I
exactly.
don't think cuz you're right. I don't think there's really another character in this
But
game that
even
has
like the
that.
other big one would be, like you said about Ariel not mattering to Ursula.
Right.
That's because Ariel was pretty inconsequential to Ursula's goal in the movie.
Yeah.
Ursula's goal had more to do with Triton, not really Ariel. She was a problem, yes, but I mean, whatever.
Yeah. That's true. I
It
guess
could have been any of Triton's daughters.
the more that we talk about Gaston, I think, because I'm more interested in the fact that how they're going to approach that character than probably even anything with him because I'm not really a huge Beauty and the Beast fan. I'll readily admit I'm not a huge Gaston fan. I am more intrigued about how they're going to tackle the character just with all this discussion because thematically, you're absolutely right. His whole goal is he wants to marry Belle. However, really in the game, how would they really portray that in a way that makes sense but still include the Beast as part of the story? Because it still is a huge part of the story, where Belle
Well,
goes to the
that's why
castle.
I kind of would expect it to be something like the Gulf of Trust situation, where you're just slowly accumulating this resource, and the Beast and all of the other characters just kind of chew through that
Yeah,
instead, like trying to uh, kind of grapple with Belle's emotions, I guess. And I
yeah.
know that sounds bad, but
Oh no, yeah, no. I
right.
mean, you're not wrong. I mean, because that's what his gimmick. I mean, that's what he
I
wants
mean,
to do.
gotta do it. There's no way around it.
Right. No, I guess I know. I'm very curious about how they're going to tackle him because obviously we know for a fact they're going to be focused around his
And
whole
who knows?
ego.
I just thought of this now too, but it might have nothing to do with either one. They may decide to go a completely different direction and focus on the fact that he make his entire gimmick the fact that he's trying to accrue a certain number of trophies throughout the game.
Oh. I mean,
Go full
that
on
also
on
is an
the
option.
go full on the ego trip
Oh my god.
and just ignore the Bell thing and completely.
Oh my god. I've thought about that one before, but then I'm like, he hunts animals. What are they gonna make him do? Hunt pots and pans and clocks and stuff?
I mean, that's basically what he spent the last half of the movie doing.
That's true. I mean, if you want to fight pots and pans, Disney's got you covered.
Pretty much.
Yeah. No,
They've got
seriously.
sentient everything at this point.
You know, I think that's the thing that's getting me more curious about these upcoming characters is because the theme really with these characters it is a very unique way like with Gaston being more about like the Belle situation rather than the Beast as well as like in what way are they going to actually do Lady Tremaine's like intentions correctly and shown that with through the gameplay without trying to do anything super weird. I think is interesting. Probably
Oh,
more
it will
so
be.
than the actual characters themselves, just because I want it.
Well, I mean, there's no doubt about that because who knows? Like, a lot of people don't even know what Lady Tremaine's name is.
Right,
A lot of them don't even like remember what she looks like, let alone her entire mannerism.
exactly.
The only reason I know anything about her is because I spend way too much time with obscure Disney.
Oh yeah, exactly. I mean, you play Kingdom Hearts. What do you expect? Um,
Yeah, really.
yeah, I yeah, because especially after the last expansion, they've definitely proven to us that they are willing to do weird stuff. So I just how weird are you gonna get? Like what is the? I mean, and I don't mean weird in a bad way. It might sound like that, and I apologize. That's not
Yeah.
my intention. Um, it's more of all right. What? How are we gonna make sure this character is portrayed in the best way possible based off who they are? Like
Right.
because we want to make sure that when a character plays as this villain or not character person, yeah, characters are playing as themselves.
Right.
Because that makes sense. They want to make sure that that theme because I mean they tout. I mean when Ravensburger has said this on Twitter and I've read this in other articles that they said the whole gimmick of villainous is really not the fact that even that you're playing as a villain. It's the fact that the game's ooze theme. It just talks about the theme of the story that is going on with these
Right.
characters and just to make sure that you meet the thematical standpoint of these different villains. I was curious how they're going to achieve that without going in a particular direction. And like even with Gaston's case, it's just like, yeah, maybe your goal is to defeat the beast, but how many freaking different villains have we've had that their whole goal is to defeat characters, you know?
Defeat X.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like literally, what is it? Captain Hook, technically Ratigan. You can count
Technically
Scar,
Jafar.
Yzma.
Technically Ursula.
Yeah, Jafar. Ursula's got that in her deck. Evil Queen's whole gimmick is that.
Evil Queen gets a bunch of it.
Yeah.
Even Pete to a certain extent because you don't want Mickey.
Right. Or you don't want heroes in general. If you got rule of
Right.
the realm. Um there's lots of
A
those
lot of them are
characters.
just really heavy on the defeat X, and to have someone that's purely, a diplomatic kind of thing where you don't necessarily like vanquish the heroes, but you have other ways of managing.
which I think is what makes Evil Queen actually a more interesting character because that is like it's not necessarily control, but she definitely has to defeat heroes in a different way than other characters. I mean, that's also what makes Ursula interesting too, is the fact that she does not defeat characters in the normal way. You know?
Yeah, with those two, you just have to plan. It comes down to timing more than anything.
Yeah. But it's not really control based.
No.
It's more of you have the preparations to defeat. And I agree. I think having a more control based character to manage the board state I think is more fun because I know for a fact like with recently with the like Corella with her whole thing where she can move a hero to a different location. I love that card, but essentially that card is
Yeah.
no different than Whirlpool, you know. Um, and what's that card doing? It's managing board state. It's like, all right, I want to dump all my heroes at this particular
Like,
location.
I would legitimately see a fun time in Tremaine's deck where instead of being something like Devious, where if you get faded, you have the conditional only pick one card, to be okay, you get both cards, but I get to pick which one you play.
Oh yes, that is brilliant.
Something like that.
All right, design 101 right now. Take it to the bank, everybody. There you go. That's a really
Something
good
like
idea.
that.
Holy shit.
Um,
That just blew my mind.
because I mean, Yzma kind of has that with superiority, but only to the extent of narrowing down which one.
Yeah, Scar has it
It
sort of too, but
would
it's
be
not
a
the same.
completely different level
Yeah.
with her, and it's like, okay, these are the options. You get to play this one. Have fun.
Yeah, exactly. Wow. I mean, I guess that could kind of backfire on you too. But I
It
mean, I
could.
get
If you get two really bad ones, then you have to decide, okay, which one is worse for me? Get rid of it.
all right. Uh, that's true. And I guess the way you have to word that one too is that you would have to make it so when they reveal because you always reveal the cards. So you would
Right.
have to be after the fake cards have been revealed, you play it. You know?
Yeah.
Maybe that's the gimmick for the next expansion because I could see them doing that with Gaston too.
They
So,
really could.
there's
Just
something with
having an
it.
entire expansion be a gimmick where they control their own fates. Like that would be really cool. Cool.
That wow. Well, guess what? We know for facts that that's the gimmick of the next
And you
expansion.
know who fits that criteria
I
of
there's a certain
manipulating fate?
bag. There's a certain bag of bugs that I think fits that really good. I
This
think he also
entire
rolls a lot
shit.
of dice, and he has a really good song. And granted, he's not in the movie for very long, but damn, is that song pretty? Let me tell you, the green and the purple, the neon colors. Let me tell you something. If that character makes it in this game and does not have a dice mechanic of some sorts, I will riot. Um,
Will I believe me?
I will riot. I will seriously riot. I'm curious though. Do you think they'll actually include dice, or do you think they'll do something weird? Where I was thinking about this the other
It's
day, where they'll.
it's too iconic for them not to have it. That Snake Eyes moment is so just like it's so
Oh,
perfect.
oh God. Yeah,
If
you're
you
right.
ever remember one thing from that movie,
Snake
the
eyes.
Snake Eyes
Oh yeah.
or just the entire song.
Oh yeah. No. If you yeah, I
Is
was
for
gonna
me
say.
so out of nowhere.
Oh God. Um. Yeah, I won't go into the bag because it's pretty obvious that the most thematic thing they can do with that character is just give him dice. That's all you need. If you make the character all revolved around dice, I don't give a crap about what the hell his goal is, as long as you have to roll dice to accomplish his goal in some shape or form. Which, by the way, everybody, if you don't know who I'm talking about, just go on the TTS mod. Ditto's put together a pretty damn good version of this character already. Um, yeah, that's all you need. That's all you really need. Um,
It is.
yeah, you just need dice. Dice manipulation. Yeah, we're solid. We're good to go. Risk reward character. There you go. Step aside Scar. We got the new one right here. Um, but yeah, no. I think that's really it though. I think it was a good conversation right there with the theme stuff. I think there's definitely some interesting takes that they can go with these characters. And I mean, and this is kind of the sad truth with the future characters, and this is just me personally, is I think a lot of these characters, except for Oogie, um, I'm not like huge fans of. I like I've said, I always want more options in my games, but I think I'm more curious about the way that they're going to play more than actually having them in the game. Because I know, especially with like my fighting games that I'm playing right now, like Dragon Ball Fighters, like the with those games, the adding more characters is just icing on the cake. What I'm more interested about the characters is how they're going to change up
The
the
new
game.
mechanics, yeah.
Yeah, like because I know, like with Dragon Ball Fighters, for instance, I know when Ultra Instinct Goku is going to come out in May sometime. He's got all this weird counter mechanic stuff that we haven't really seen in the game at all, which I think is going to be super dope. It'll be cool to see. But that's what makes that stuff exciting, is that that's something that's now breaking the system a little bit than what we're normally used to. You know, I don't want the same old stuff, which is I think why the expansion that Perfectly Wretched is super well done, is because all that stuff is stuff that we have not really experienced before. And I think we all can agree that's what we want with future characters too. I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, we can all agree
Definitely.
on that. That's a unanimous decision. I'm going to make it for the community itself that I am stamping my approval, saying yes, that's what we all want. If we don't get it, we will riot. But enough about rioting. I think we will wrap up the show now. We've gone over much
Yeah,
more longer than I
don't
expected.
don't want to incite any
Yeah, exactly. No rioting. I want you all to hold hands and sing Kumbaya. All right. Actually, no, don't sing Kumbaya. Hakuna Matata. It's a Disney villainous podcast, for God's sake.
You're right.
No, but until then, I thanks Ditto for joining me on this topic. I always
problem.
appreciate it. Until next time, everybody, make sure you stay healthy and safe, and as always, stay wicked.